For a long time, my wife and I thought owning a place of our own was out of reach. We lived comfortably, but not extravagantly. I worked full-time, my wife had a part-time job, and we were raising our 7-year-old daughter in a small rented apartment that did the job but never quite felt permanent. Then I got promoted. Not a dramatic jump, just enough of a raise to make us start thinking differently. About the future, about stability, about maybe not renting forever. That's when I started looking. Apartment prices were brutal. Everything in our range was either too small, too far, or needed more work than we could afford. For months, every promising listing ended the same way. Either sold before I could see it, or priced just out of reach. Then I found one that didn't make sense. The price was low, not suspiciously low, just low enough to feel out of place. The apartment was slightly outside the main part of town, not isolated, but quieter. Older buildings, fewer shops, fewer people passing through. I called immediately. The next day I went to see it. A polite man showed me around. He said the apartment belonged to a young couple who needed to sell quickly. He didn't give details, and I didn't push. Inside, the place was small but clean. 2 bedrooms, a narrow balcony, enough space for us. Nothing looked damaged. Nothing felt neglected. For the price, it felt almost lucky. I finalized the deal within days. When I told my wife, she didn't believe me at first. When I showed her the paperwork, she laughed and hugged me so hard I nearly dropped everything. Our daughter ran around the living room, asking which room would be hers. For the first time in a long while, things felt settled. We moved in a week later. Those first days were genuinely happy. We unpacked slowly, ate dinner on the floor, let our daughter choose where her toys would go. Even the quiet felt nice. The kind of quiet that comes from being away from traffic and crowds. Nothing felt wrong. Not yet. The first thing my wife noticed wasn't a sound. It was a feeling. She told me later that while she was cooking one afternoon, she suddenly became aware of the corner of the kitchen. Not because anything moved, but because it felt watched. She stood there longer than she meant to, staring at empty space. The feeling didn't go away until she left the room. She didn't tell me that day. A few evenings later, my wife and daughter came home from grocery shopping. As they reached the door, they both stopped. From inside the apartment, they heard what sounded like a woman talking, then laughing. My wife assumed it was the TV. She unlocked the door quickly. The apartment was empty, silent. The TV was off. I didn't panic when they told me. I explained it away. Neighbors, sound traveling through balconies. Old buildings carry noise strangely. I believed that explanation, or wanted to. But then things kept happening. One night, my wife and daughter were watching TV together. I was in the bedroom, half asleep, when I heard my wife call my name sharply. They had seen movement on the neighboring balcony. Not a person, not clearly. Just something dark passing quickly through their peripheral vision. When I checked, there was nothing there. The apartment stopped feeling peaceful after that. Not scary, just wrong in a way that made us more alert than we wanted to be. We started leaving lights on. We started double-checking doors. Still, nothing happened that I could point to and say, this is the moment. Until the day I came home early. I knew the apartment should have been empty. As I stood outside the door, keys in hand, I heard a woman laughing from inside. It wasn't my wife's voice. It wasn't my daughter's. I opened the door anyway. The sound stopped immediately. I searched the apartment. Nothing. Then I heard movement from the balcony. When I rushed there, the space was empty. My heart was pounding hard enough that I felt dizzy. I told myself to calm down. I went to the bathroom to wash my face. As I passed the walk-in closet, I opened the door without thinking. That's when something rose from the floor. Not fully visible, not solid, just movement, fast, upward, and wrong. It crossed into the bathroom like it didn't need to open the door. I screamed. When my wife returned, I told her everything. We didn't argue. We didn't debate. We agreed we were done. We moved out the next day. A month later, I sold the apartment for less than I paid. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want answers. We live somewhere else now. Nothing like that has happened again. But every time I think about that apartment, I understand why it was priced the way it was. Some places cost more than money.